Good evening, everyone. Welcome in to Vol Society Live on another beautiful Wednesday night in the fall of 2022. My name is David Morrison. I'm the Vol Society lead analyst right here on the Vol Society Network. We thank you for everybody tuning in so far tonight across our social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Make sure you're following along. If you're watching us on YouTube, like our video, share it out, subscribe to our YouTube channel. And, of course, Facebook and Twitter, make sure you're following along for the latest news and notes across the University of Tennessee. The chat room is open. Go ahead, leave your comments, your questions, as we will talk about this big game coming up Saturday with Tennessee taking on LSU. Make sure you're also listening to the podcast, official Vol Society podcast, Good Old Rocky Talk. Available on Apple, Spotify, and Amazon platforms. New episode drops each and every Tuesday. We had a great show this past week. We welcome in Ryan Hughes, a longtime friend of ours from childhood, pretty much through our entire childhood and teenage life. Did some great things, or doing some great things in his adult life with the Boys and Girls Club. He really talked about that. Just a wonderful guest on the podcast. Make sure you go back and listen to it. And even as Tennessee fans, we can help out with the Boys and Girls Club. And he gave a specific example on that. And really cool that he brought that up. But tonight we're going to talk about LSU. Big game coming up on Saturday, 12 o'clock Eastern Time kickoffs, 11 a.m. down in Baton Rouge. Should be a lot of fun. Coming up on Saturday. Tennessee right now 4-0 on the year, ranked number 8 in the country. Meanwhile, for LSU, they're 4-1 on the year. Ranked, just got back into the top 25, I believe, for the first time this year. I can't remember if they were ranked when they played Florida State or not. But we'll talk about this this LSU team. It's going to be a pretty tough game. I'm going to go ahead and say that right out of the gate. We've played some tough games so far. The Pittsburgh game was very tough. Had to win that one in overtime. Florida game was a nail-biter, but it was an emotional win at the end as Tennessee prevails with the W. And I expect to see a very similar situation coming up on Saturday. Like I said, we're excited to have that early game. Don't have that crazy LSU night game atmosphere, but it's still going to be a tough atmosphere to get a win down there. So definitely looking forward to it. Let's go ahead and just let's talk about this LSU team first. I mean, we've talked about Tennessee enough, and we'll maybe brief on them a little bit, but let's talk about this LSU team. So it starts, to me, their best playmaker, quarterback Jaden Daniels. He's a transfer from Arizona State. He's a junior, 6'3", 200 pounds. So far on the year, he's 89 for 131 for 915 yards and 6 touchdowns. Doesn't look like he has thrown an interception so far this season. It's kind of like Hendon Hooker. He has not. So takes care of the football very well. He also leads the team in rushing, 60 carries for 321 yards and 3 touchdowns. So it's going to be very interesting to see what Tennessee does with Jaden Daniels on defense. And like I said, our rush defense has been great this year, but our passing defense has been very terrible. I know very terrible is not the great, uh, not great saying on that part, but also not great English either. But it's been terrible. I mean, out of 131 teams in FBS football, Tennessee is ranked number 128 in passing defense. I mean, that's awful. So, not going to sugarcoat that at all. But it's going to be interesting to see what Tennessee's defense does with Jaden Daniels. How do you going to stop him in this game? Like I said, he's a dual threat quarterback. Tennessee has struggled with dual threat quarterbacks for a long time. So now you're taking on another one, and you look at uh, what do you do? Do you stop his running attack, or do you stop, obviously throwing the football? That's going to be the big key factor uh, coming up on Saturdays. Like, what do you stop his running attack, or you stop his passing attack? Uh, this is going to be a big game for Tim Banks and Willie Martinez, the secondary coach, is getting these guys ready. And speaking of getting guys ready, we'll start with kind of the bad news and then go to the good news. So, Warren Burrell, who started the season at cornerback for Tennessee, hasn't played in the last couple of games due to injury. Well, he had season-ending surgery. He is done for the year. But Tennessee does pick up a player coming off the injury list, and that is D. Williams. So D. Williams will play coming up on Saturday. So kind of when one player goes out, another player comes in. So happy to see that transpires. So we'll see how he fits into it. Kamal Haddon, he didn't really have a great game against Florida except for the interception at the end of the game. So he's going to have to step up. Brandon Turnage, Andre Turrentine, uh, what Rucker, Wesley Walker. I mean, there's a lot of guys that's going to have to step up in that secondary. Travian Flowers and Jalen McCullough, they've done a good job in the safety positions, but this is going to be very crucial. Like I said, Tennessee secondary has not lived up to what we expected to be. And I understand, they struggled last year, and it's still transition into this year. So how are you going to stop Jaden Daniels is going to be a big key factor. I feel fine with the rest of the defense. Our linebacker play has been pretty decent so far. Jeremy Banks has done a good job. Aaron Beasley's looked good. The front four or kind of the front three, to be honest, they've done what they need to do. Felt like Byron Young had a great game against Florida. He seems like he's coming to his own. Tyler Barron's got into the backfield a little bit. I'm really impressed with Amari Thomas. I think he's filled that slot nicely where Matthew Butler was last year. So it's going to be very interesting to see what's going to happen. Kind of looking at the rest of this LSU team, their wide receiver is Malik Neighbors, leads the team. Interceptions, 22 carries, 290 yards, one touchdown on the year. So another someone else we're going to have to keep in mind there. Hello to my grandparents watching along. But like I said, this is where I think the big key of this game is this. Can our defense step up? Can they force turnovers? Can they make Jaden Daniels some mistakes in this game? Like I said, similar to Hendon Hooker, he has not turned the ball over so far this season. I expect to see kind of a lot of scoring somewhat of a lot of scoring. I think it's going to be a back and forth game, very similar to Florida. I don't know if they're going to light up the scoreboard. I expect LSU to probably slow down the tempo a little bit and to, like I said, keep Tennessee's defense on the field and kind of nitpick at it a little bit. But as far as Tennessee goes, the cast of characters, Hendon Hooker so far this year has thrown over 1,100 yards, almost 1,200 yards to be exact, 8 touchdowns on the season. No interceptions. I think he's thrown like 212 passes so far without throwing a pick. I mean, that's just great football IQ awareness of what Hendon Hooker does, and just a blessing to have at quarterback. Jalen Wright on the year, leading the team in rushing, 55 carries for 256 yards, 4 touchdowns. Uh, Looking good, for the most part. Jabari Small seems like he's coming in on his own. The only thing I'm a little concerned with is the rushing ability of Tennessee. That's kind of the weak point of this offense. At times they open up good holes for them, and I think they're doing what they need to do, but I think it can be better. We haven't had that big breakout run so far this season. We took it to the house, 50, 60 yards. We haven't had that big home run uh, threat yet. So we'll see if Tennessee can adjust that going into the heart of the SEC schedule. Jalen Hyatt looking great so far. 23 catches on the year for 325 yards, 3 touchdowns. Uh, he has really broke out this year. Very excited to see him finally getting into his own, especially with the absence of Cedric Tillman. And I'll go ahead and mention this. It seems like there's a slim chance that Cedric Tillman could play on Saturday. I'm not expecting him to play, to be honest. I think it's, he's kind of day to day, but I don't expect him to suit up against LSU. I think he's more likely going to come back for the Alabama game. Thankfully, this surgery that he had is not a serious one that he's going to be out for a long, significant time. It's just going to be just kind of 3-4 games. But, Brew McCoy's done very well. Had that big game against Florida. And we kind of talked about the Florida game during the bye week last week. But, yeah, just a very this is a big game right here. Is like I said, we get into SEC play with LSU coming up. Then you get Alabama. That game has just been announced on Monday. That will be the 3:30 CBS game. So all eyes are going to be focusing on Knoxville once again. And then you still have Kentucky towards the end of the month. You have your final non-conference game on the 22nd of October, I believe, with UT Martin. So kind of a little bit of a break after going through these 3 big SEC games, and then you roll into November. I mean, college football just goes so quick. It's just amazing. You start thinking about it, and then the season's almost over. And for a lot of teams in the nation, it kind of ended way early. Seeing coaches fired and stuff, and I'll get into that a little bit later. But let's kind of look at LSU's season so far. If you haven't kind of followed along, so LSU started their season on the night before Labor Day, so September the 4th, they took on Florida State down in New Orleans. It was a classic game won by Florida State. Our founder, Brad, in here saying, "Go Vols." Like I said, the chat room is open, folks. If you want to ask questions along the way, go right ahead. If you especially kind of make me stop talking for a little bit. But they had that loss to Florida State, and it was kind of a weird loss, and it seemed like the fan base already was trying to turn on Brian Kelly, which I thought was kind of ridiculous. I know Brian Kelly is a different personality compared to Ed Orgeron, but I think they were hitting the panic button real early, but that quieted down very quickly. Brad's saying, "What's everyone think? What's everyone think about our chances Saturday?" So move on. LSU defeated Southern in their home opener 65-17. Then picked up a pretty big SEC win over Mississippi State 31-16. And right now Mississippi State is playing their best football of the year after coming off a win Saturday against Texas A&M. And I guess you could say Texas A&M is kind of one of the worst teams. Then they shut out New Mexico on September 24th. 38-0, and then last Saturday they got into a bit of a scrap fight with Auburn, and they were down 17-0 on the Plains, and then came back and won 21-17. And kind of somewhat quoting Josh Pate, he described that game as LSU got into a rock fight with Auburn and ended up coming away with the win. And I'll give credit to Josh Pate. He was previewing this game, and he said this game coming up reminds him of the Baylor-Oklahoma State game that was played last Saturday, where Baylor got into what he called a rock fight with Iowa State, and Oklahoma State was on the bye. They had their feet kicked up. So then they came back home, big home game against Oklahoma State, and Oklahoma State went into their home field and just, not really dominated the win, but went in there and played a comfortable game and came away with the win on the road. He says he expects to see a game similar to that. So, and I hope so too. I like to see Tennessee go down there and take care of business and come away with the win. And I'll get to my score predictions in just a moment. But this LSU team has really improved since, probably since week one, when kind of a lot of the nation saw LSU, unless they watched maybe that Auburn game or maybe Mississippi State or whatever. But Brian Kelly, he's been coaching for a long time. Everybody remembers his time at Notre Dame. Had some great teams. As always, he was kind of the bridesmaid, never the bride. Uh, Went to a national championship game, lost to Alabama, and then took Notre Dame to the playoffs and was quickly exited out. I think they lost to Clemson, I believe, when they went to the playoffs that year. But he's coached a lot of games. He knows what he's doing, and I think for the most part he'll have a successful run at LSU. The talent's there, and LSU is a good program. Take another Josh Pate example. It's just a Ferrari with flat tires. They got they got the tools, they got the resources. They can win in the SEC East. I mean, they're just only 3 years removed from winning a national championship, so it's not like he's building this program from the ground up. I mean, this is a pretty solid program that was just kind of slipping, and now he's taken over the reins, and we shall see what happens. I mean, our program was rock bottom when Josh Heupel took over, and it's just like I said, ours is more rebuilding from the ground up. But yeah, what do y'all think about this game on Saturday? That's just kind of my thoughts on it. I'll go ahead and give you my score prediction. I'll go Tennessee 30, LSU 28. I mentioned this on the podcast. It's going to be another nail biter. I expect Tennessee's offense to be clicking, even on the road. We saw it, that offense clicking at Pittsburgh. Now, this is a different environment that we're playing in, a more tougher environment than Pitt, although I will give Pitt credit. What used to be called Heinz Field, that's now got a weird name. I still call it Heinz Field. I'll give the Pitt fans credit. They put on a great home field advantage for us on the roads. But I think I like Tennessee's offense to do well on the road. It's just that secondary scares me. Like I said, you lose Warren Burrell for the year. While I'm not the biggest Warren Burrell fan, and I don't want to see, but I don't want to see him get hurt and have to have surgery. I want to see him improve. Like every Tennessee player, I don't want them to just go away or whatever. But it's a tough blow, especially like I said, a very thin secondary. And like I said, how are you going to stop Jaden Daniels at quarterback? Like I said, the guy obviously leads the team in passing, but also leads the team in rushing. Trying to think, there were D's mentioned a defensive guy that we need to watch out for. Let's see if I can find his name here. It's on the defense here. Oh yeah, Alargy. BJ Olargy. So far on the year, he's got 12 tackles, 3.5 sacks on the season. So definitely someone to keep an eye on. He's a defensive end. Brad says Vols will win, will be close. Of course, we gave our score predictions on the podcast. Brad did, I did, Dees did, our guest Ryan did. Looking at some of these other players for LSU, their leading tackler is safety Jay Ward on the year. Brad said John B's prediction Saturday. Okay, be interesting. Let's see, leads the team in sacks here. Okay, largely leads the team in sacks, 3.5. Also got Savion Jones. I guess that's how you say your name. 2.5 sacks on the year. John says it's going to be too close for comfort. As far as interceptions go on the defense, they got 4 guys with 1 pick. Should be, and And John says, hard to win in Baton Rouge. Yeah, it's a tough place to play. Like I said, I know we got that 11 o'clock kickoff, but it's just not. I mean, it's like no one's going to show up. They're still going to put. I can't remember how much Tiger Stadium holds. I think 90,000. They're still going to have a good crowd there. It's just not that crazy night atmosphere, and I guess kind of helps us a little bit. John Burroughs keeping his mouth shut on the score prediction. That'd be interesting. Yeah, like I said, go ahead and drop your score predictions in here in the chat room, wherever you're watching us out. Sold out, David. They reported online. Okay, it's interesting because I saw on the I don't know if we sold some tickets back or if LSU sold some tickets back. But I saw that you can purchase some tickets to that LSU game. They were really advertising. No, I mean, unless they got sold quick. John says falls by 50. I'll take that. Speaking of tickets, Tennessee basketball tickets go on sale this Friday at 9 o'clock Eastern Time, 8 o'clock Central. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and jump on it. That was reported today. Also, kind of some other side news and notes. For the week of that, during the Alabama game, the Tennessee basketball team is going to have an open practice for the public. Starting at 10 a.m. for the Lady Vols, and then I think the guys are at 11:30 at Thompson Bowling Arena. So if you're up at the Tennessee Alabama game early, you can swing by there and watch Tennessee basketball team. Trying to think of some others. Okay, Kelly Burroughs, that'd be John's wife. She says Vols 24, Kitty Cats 17. Okay. Kind of a low score, but that's a Vols win. They could. It's could. I can see that score happening. This is like I said. This is a big game coming up. Kind of an underrated game on the week. What week we on? Week 6. I should know that because I filmed Tailgate Thursday yesterday. But obviously, you got the CBS doubleheader, and we got the noon game on ESPN. But hey, we'll take it. I know. I think Dee's mentioned this on the podcast, or maybe when we were talking off air, that usually Tennessee practices at 11 a.m. Throughout the week. So, they're used to getting up early and kind of playing at that time. So, very interesting. TJ, welcome to the show. He says 38-24 Vols all the way. So, okay, couple win by 2 touchdowns. That would be big. Like I said, I feel confident in this game. I think it's still going to be kind of a nail biter. Like I said, I'm still looking at 30-28. But hey, go down there and win by 2 touchdowns. I'll take it all day. John says, first time I hadn't listened to it as soon as it dropped first thing tomorrow. Yeah. It was a great, definitely check out the podcast. I mentioned at the top of the show, we welcome in Ryan Hughes, a childhood friend of ours, and doing great things with the Boys and Girls Club. He's the, I hope I get this title right, the executive director of the Tennessee Boys and Girls Club Alliance. I think that's the exact title. Hope I got that right. Doing great things. And like I said, us Vol fans can help out the Boys and Girls Club. And Ryan mentioned that on the podcast, especially when it comes to Tennessee football. So definitely check that out. Brad says, if we are 5-0 Saturday, my goodness, how good will it will feel? Yes. I mean, we need to look up and see when the last time Tennessee was 5-0. I know in 2016, let's see if I can turn around and look without tearing any wires up. Okay, so yeah, last time we were 5-0 was 2016 because we went into Texas A&M undefeated. Okay, so yeah, since 2016. Brad says I might. Okay. Anyways, like I said, continue to drop your score predictions here on the LSU game. Let's see. Oh, I might buy a statue of Heupel if we are 5-0. Put it right next to Robert Nealon. Yeah. I also mentioned this on the podcast too. I don't want to. I want everybody to go back and listen to it, but kind of briefly mention. Uh, I talked about kind of the future of Josh Heupel at the University of Tennessee, and I'm not trying to scare people uh, away. Trying to scare Josh Heupel away, but we talked about coaches getting axed, fired. Not even going. We're what, October the 5th. I mean, we saw 5 coaches in 4 weeks relieved of their duties. Scott Frost at Nebraska, Herm Edwards at Arizona State, Jeff Collins at Georgia Tech, uh, Carl Durrell at Colorado, and Paul Chris at Wisconsin. And I made this point on the podcast. Don't be surprised to hear Josh Heupel's name come up for these coaching opens. Now, I'm not saying he's leaving. I'm not saying that because we talked about when Danny White gave the contract extension, but just want to get your attention to that. You'll probably start hearing not Heupel's names for some of these head coaching options, but I think Danny White really is probably doing everything he can to keep Josh Heupel on board. So definitely had a good discussion on that. TJ asked, word on Tillman. Uh, as far as I know, it's I'm gonna say probably doubtful. He'll play Saturday. There could be a shot of him playing. I expect him to probably come back maybe by the Alabama game, the earliest. Um, it's just kind of day to day, but nothing that I've heard that he's going to suit up and play. Be nice for him to play, but even if he doesn't, I feel very confident in the core receivers that we got. Jalen Hyde has stepped up nicely. Brew McCoy, even Ramel Keaton, who really broke out in that Florida game, had that spectacular catch, and then just really improved throughout as the game went along. TJ says D him for the Alabama game, definitely 100%. Yes, I think you need to have everybody healthy, or every able body healthy for Alabama. Like I said, this is still a big game coming up, but once you have one of your big rivals, especially a rival that you haven't beat in a couple of decades, you need all hands on deck for that. But I'm going to say he's probably doubtful for the LSU game. Any others? Trying to think of any other little news and notes. I know we mentioned D. Williams. It's going to play. Brad throwing a little poll to our Vol Society. If Tennessee and Bama are undefeated, will game day be back in Knoxville? I'm going to say no. No disrespect to game day. They were a great host for us. I don't know if they would repeat that. I'm going to kind of take a look and see who's. Yeah, because I'm looking here. I already got week 7 pulled up. It depends on what happens on Saturday. You got Penn State and Michigan coming up that same week. USC and Utah. I don't think they'll go there since Utah's got that loss. John says, I'm so thankful for your insights every week, Morrison. Well, thank you. You got Brad says yes. You got Oklahoma State and TCU. Well, TCU's going to Kansas. Kansas is kind of having this Cinderella run. Man, if Florida State didn't lose to Wake Forest, I can see them going there. It's going to come. I would say there's a shot of game day coming back. It just all depends on how Penn State and Michigan does this weekend. I think that's probably what's going to probably get us ousted. Penn State's on a bye. And then Michigan's playing at Indiana, and they're a 22.5-point favorite. TJ says game day in Knoxville 100% versus Alabama if we go undefeated. John says Tennessee 5-0 going to the third week in October. It might happen. I mean, it could. I mean, and I'd be awesome if they did. And it's funny to think we talked about this in the preseason. We hypothetically thought, man, if we both go undefeated, into the third Saturday in October, game day will. That's a slam dunk. They're coming back, and then we got it. in that for the Florida game, and that was great. We had him for the Florida game, but it's like kind of a quick turnaround. Brad says, I don't know why game day would pass on that one. I mean, they could. I think it's going to come down between that and Penn State and Michigan. If Michigan, I know it's going to disappoint Vol fans, and I don't want to. And I trust me, I would love to see them come back. I just kind of thinking, kind of how ESPN thinks a little bit. Like even if I mean, you also got USC Utah, but I don't know if they'll go to Salt Lake City. SEC all the way from TJ. Yes, I can see SEC Nation coming. I know that's not the best, but definitely. I mean, it'd be a game day atmosphere to a certain degree. I know, but maybe we'll get Barstool to come back. They were at the Tennessee Florida game. Man, everybody was there at that Tennessee Florida game. John asks, is Lee Corso okay? I know he got sick. Reese Davis gave a report on him. I didn't get to read it. I think he's okay from what I've heard. And I just think he just fell under just kind of fell under the weather and didn't go last Saturday at Clemson, I believe, is where they were at. Which is a miracle, especially with Hurricane Ian went through that area and looked like that was going to be kind of a rain out. And turned out the weather came nicer than what they thought. Hopefully he's okay. I was there, best game ever in Knoxville. From TJ, yeah, we were all there too, and that was a fun atmosphere. Ryan joining in says ESPN loves them some Big Ten. They do, along with the SEC. Depends on what part of the country you're at. Either they're SEC biased or they don't talk enough about us. And by the way, definitely check out Ryan on the podcast. Brad says he ate a bad burrito. He's fine now. Kevin saying, "What's up, Vol fans? Let's go. Good to have you on, Kevin." John says all Buckeye fans, pretty much. And I know you got several that played at Ohio State or went to Ohio State that works for Espen. Brad says, let's go. Like I said, here we are, October the 5th, sitting here at 4-0, could be 5-0 after Saturday afternoon. Definitely looking forward to it. I mean, it's been, I mean, we talked about 2016, but really it's been a long time since we've felt this good. Even that 2016 season, we pulled a lot of games out of our rear end to win. That Appalachian State game, the Georgia Hail Mary game, even Florida coming back and beating them. Yeah, just it was definitely kind of that record at the first 5 games just kind of fell in our way. Brad says, who listened to the podcast already? Let's hear it. Yeah, definitely check it out. Like I said, we got our guests on the podcast already in the chat room. Ryan says, campus is going to be unreal if we are undefeated going into that Bama game. Big game this Saturday. Yes. And Brad says, this game Saturday is our biggest test so far. Trust me. Yeah. And back in my preseason prediction, I had this as a loss because I had a feeling this was going to be a night game, but then CBS did the doubleheader, and I thought, okay, well, we'll either get a 3:30 game or we'll get the noon game. We'll get the noon game. Kevin says, I hadn't yet listened to the podcast, but I promise I love it. Thank you, Kevin. I said, we had a lot of fun this past week with Ryan, and then we got a big surprise coming up next week for the podcast. I know Vol Society is going to be talking about it. I can't wait. Hopefully. Any other questions or comments? Like I said, continue to drop your score predictions. Like I said, this is going to be a lot of fun. Tennessee's rocking the Smoky Grays. I know we got split fan base on the Smoky Grays. I'm kind of pro Smoky Grays. I don't hate them. I understand the tradition of the orange and white, and And I do, but I know I do realize a lot of the younger kids like the different uniforms and stuff. So if it makes them happy, then I'm happy. I know Deez is absolutely not a fan of them, and I think Brad so kind of is too. I know Tony is also anti Smoky Grace. Kevin says, "Will Cedric be ready for Alabama?" I'm going to say doubtful, Kevin. You know, there's a slim chance he might play, but I think they're probably targeting for. We ready for Alabama? I think he'll play. Hopefully for Alabama. I'm sorry, I forgot how to read. I thought you said for LSU. I think he's doubtful. I don't see him playing for the LSU game, but I think he'll be ready for Alabama. Yeah, and Brad confirmed. Hopefully he'll be ready for Alabama. John echoes that too. Like I said, you got to have everybody on deck for Alabama. Like I said, this we're getting into the heart of our schedule right now. I mean, Florida was big, got that bye week, kind of catch our breath, and now we're focused on LSU, and then like I said, we're focused on that. Then you get Alabama, then you get a break with UT Martin, which I don't remember the last time we played a non-conference opponent midway through the season, unless it was like Memphis or any of that, and then you get Kentucky at the end of the month. Any word on Daniels' health? Jaden Daniels? Hadn't heard. Let me Google that really quick here. Brad says, well, what game is John playing trombone? Was it Georgia? I think it was. Yeah, Jaden Daniels. Okay. Kind of looking at the top stories. Not really mentioned nothing about his health. Says he called a player only meeting between him and the LSU wide receivers to fix the passing game. That's interesting. Oh yeah, I forgot about him exiting the game against Auburn. That's when I switched over to uh, the Georgia game. Let's see here. Okay. He's Brian Kelly says he's okay, so I expect him to play. And we mentioned this kind of at the top of the program. I'm interested to see what Tim Banks and Willie Martinez can come up with to try to stop him. Because, I mean, I feel confident with like Rodney Garner and the rest of the defensive staff. It's just how do you going to stop him at being a dual threat quarterback? Very similar to Anthony Richardson. Matter of fact, he leads the team in rushing. So, it's what do you do? Do you blitz him? Do you play more coverage? This is a big key game for Tim Banks as our defensive coordinator. Like I said, Tennessee right now is 128th in defending the pass, and there's 131 FBS schools. Yeah, not good. Brad says, thanks again, Ryan, for joining us on the podcast. Awesome conversation. Great man doing great things to the state of Tennessee. Definitely check that out. It was very heartwarming to hear his story. Kevin saying 38-21 goal Vols beat them Tigers. So he's going for a big win down in Baton Rouge. Like I said, I still think 30-28. I hope that's a 38-21 score too. So we'll see. I mean, this is a big game. And like I said, I'm kind of glad Tennessee has already played two big games and obviously came out with wins, but know how to grind out a win. Although that Florida game probably should have won a lot more, and we let Florida hang around way too long at the end. But like I said, it was still an emotional win, still a great atmosphere at the end. And then, like I said, grinded out a win against Pitt, which they turned around and lost to Georgia Tech last Saturday after firing Jeff Collins the week before. And that running back, Abactia, I think is his name, he didn't even play in that game against Georgia Tech. So That Pitt wins kind of still big, but still not as good. Brad says podcast this week is on track to be our best one yet. Many downloads already. Definitely check out the podcast when you can. Ryan did a fantastic job. We had some great conversations about the coaching carousel and where the future of kind of college football goes with coaches and making a lot of money. Kind of a side conversation here, a different conversation. So I read today that, and I don't see this happening, but if Jimbo Fisher gets fired this year at Texas A&M, like I said, I don't see it happening. Like his buyout is like almost $80 million. It is ridiculous. His buyout contract, and it's just, yeah. We'll see. I mean, that team's going to get turned around too, but hopefully not too so far in the distant future. Nicholas saying, "Go Vols!" Welcome, Nicholas, to the Vol Society. Giving a big go Vols. Hopefully you're ready for the game on Saturday against LSU and Alabama coming up on the third Saturday in October. Give a shout out to our Facebook reaction people. Obviously, Brad. Shout out to Nicholas, Pastor Scott. Shout out to him, Kevin, Ryan, TJ, David Michael, Herb. Did I like my own video? So shout out to those guys watching along tonight. Make sure you like the video. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, drive those analytics up. Get Vol Society is the #1 content for Tennessee athletics. Nicholas says, "Can't wait. I wish I could say I'm excited to see us stomp LSU. But they're a really great team, a great coach. I'm more nervous of this game than Florida." Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you, Nicholas. This is more of a nerve-wracking game. Florida, we were kind of nervous for it, but obviously we thought we had a more talented team than them. I think talent-wise, we're pretty even with LSU. And I mentioned this before. LSU's just 3 years away from winning a national championship. Now, granted, Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase is not going to walk through through the tunnel at LSU on Saturday, but still, this team can recruit. Brian Kelly is a great coach. It's been many a years at Notre Dame. He's won some big games. Like I said, now kind of starting his first year in the in the SEC. Definitely going to be very interesting to see how he does finishing out the rest of this first year. I think he's going to be fine out there. Brad's saying, "Totally agree, Nick. This is a huge game, guys. It comes down to our defense. Can our D make some key stops?" That's definitely. Nicholas says, "I was nervous for Florida, but I knew we were better than LSU. They are just insane at coming back from being down, and our defense is obviously not where we need to be." Yeah, you're right. Going back to the last Saturday, down 17-0 to Auburn on the road, and while a lot of the nation or a lot of the SEC regional area turned away from that game and started watching Georgia, Missouri, think we're going to see the upset of the century. LSU came back and defeated Auburn 21-17, and so this is a very veteran coaching staff that LSU's got. Notified, okay. Yeah, big game coming up. Like I said, our defense is. I agree. Our defense needs to step up, make some key stops, especially stop Jaden Daniels. And I feel very confident with like Hendon Hooker and the offense in general. I think they're going to score some points. It's just that other side. And it's going to be interesting to see, can LSU's defense handle our tempo. I don't think they really played an up-tempo team all year. Just kind of thinking off the top of my head, I think everybody's just kind of a base spread offense. So, which a lot of college football teams run base spread offenses today, unless you're playing one of the military schools. So they're used to spreading their corners out, linebackers out, whatever, and running that. But just the constant speed of the game and the way we are speed up our offenses. If they give up a score, does they come back and respond to it? And so far, the two big games we played, they've the opposite team has. Um, that's going to be a big crucial part going down the rest of the season. Is can our defense hold up? Especially with Georgia and Alabama and even Kentucky. Nicholas says it's literally a defensive game, even though it will be very high scoring. I believe we will win because we will get one important stop at the end, and they won't get that stop with us, and we'll score late for the win. All right, and I can see that happen too. We saw with Pitt. Yeah, what was it? Florida went like 5 for 6 on fourth down, and the one stop on the fourth down was on their opening drive when we stopped Anthony Richardson on 4th and 2, but then they converted the next 5. So yeah, I expect even Brian Kelly to go for it on fourth down also. Keep Tennessee's defense on the field as long as they can and just nitpick at them. Got to get some big stops. Got to get some turnovers. Like I said, Kamal hadn't had the pick at the end. You gotta force some turnovers. We did against Pitt with Travion Flowers, got that one in the end zone. I think obviously that's huge for us. You gotta get some turnovers on Jaden Daniels, even a fumble. We'll take a fumble. I think all ball fans are pretty unanimous about that. Yeah, and Brad says D-backs, please come to play. Yeah, definitely so. Kamal Haddon, D. Williams, probably gonna get a start. Turtine, Flowers, McCullough in the safety positions. Nicholas says, yeah, I agree, but I don't see Brian Kelly a fourth down coach. Though maybe on their own side of the field, but not like Florida or Ole Miss does an opposite side of the field. Yeah. Like I said, yeah, and you're right. Napier and Kiffin are very big in analytics, and yeah, Brian Kelly's kind of a little more old school. You could be right. Brad says Hooker's going to have to use those legs Saturday. Yeah, and I think they'll let Hendon Hooker go loose, especially now he's kind of one of the Heisman favorites. Utilize him as much as you can. And I think if you pull this win at LSU, especially a big time win, like if you win double digit wins or double digit points, yeah, you're going to hear more serious talk about Hendon Hooker for the Heisman. Like I said, my opinion is with the Hooker Heisman talking, we answered this question on the podcast, he's going to have to beat Georgia or Alabama to be a serious contender, in my opinion. I think he could still put up the numbers and may get to New York as a finalist, but you got to have that big key win. Brad says, bottom line, if defense can create or at least a few key stops, we win this game. Mm-hmm. That's it. I want to see Tennessee, force negative plays. Get to Jaden Daniels. Nicholas says Brad Frank, 100,000%. Yeah. Yeah, you got to force some negative plays. You got to get them in second and long, third and long. Hopefully, our officials will throw some flags on LSU more than us. Get them into some long situations. But then again, our defense at this point can't really stop on third and long. That's the other thing. Yeah, Nicholas says about answering to Brad. Jaden Daniels will as well. He's not the best passer, which helps us. Yeah, that's true. That's pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty close. Let's get your prediction, Natalie. Newman watching a lot. I can't see who's watching them all. Oh, yeah, there's Natalie. Shout out to Natalie, another friend of ours. LSU is leading the team in the SEC for red zone defense, but Tennessee leads the team in red zone offense. Yeah, somebody brought that up. I think it was Josh Pate. I think it was one of the other people I listened to. They mentioned that, No, it was Pate. It was Pate that mentioned that. Because he mentioned something's got to give. Red zone defense and Tennessee in red zone offense. I just realized that both of my Tennessee football teams lead their respective leagues or conferences in red zone offense. My Titans #1 team in red zone offense in the NFL, but we can't stop anybody on defense. Very similar situations, except the Vols are 100 times better than my Titans right now. But this ain't Titan Society Live either. I'll give a shout out to Natalie for the like. We should find out who the last three are. Anyways. Brad says, can I get a prayer for my Carolina Panthers? Yeah. Yikes. Yeah. That's a talented team that needs a better coach. Maybe a better quarterback. But, Cleveland kind of screwed up either. Any other questions or comments? We have eclipsed 50 minutes. Man, it's already been 50 minutes. Natalie! She says, I'll leave it to the experts. Finally have time to catch y'all live. Shout out to Natalie, or welcome aboard to Vol Society, watching us down in El Paso. Thank you for tuning in. Bryce says, ain't quarterback. I'm about the Carolina Panthers. What's your score prediction? I'm going Tennessee 30, LSU 28. I think it's going to be another nail biter game. So, which my fingernails are kind of down. Be chewing at the numb. Miss K saying, bless their hearts, poor Panthers. Yeah. Brad's going 35-31. Vols over LSU. So, yeah, and we all think it's going to be a very close game. Any others? So we got some great questions, great comments. Not much else to talk about, I guess. Brad says, I'll say this. If we somehow beat them good, then we got something good going on, folks. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you talk about the excitement. Miss K going 28-14. I'm assuming Tennessee, her score. Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this before. It's been a long time since we've had a fan base just juvenated over Tennessee football. And, I'm even like, the people I work with, they're great people, don't get me wrong, but there's 2 or 3 people at work I'll talk about Tennessee football, but then there's a lot that don't follow along, but they notice, hey, Tennessee's undefeated, and then they're asking me about, what's going on? Are they legit? So there is interest out there, even from the outside, people that don't follow along, watching along. Of course, I've mentioned about the podcast too. They know I do a Tennessee football podcast and a live stream. But I'm excited to see people that don't really watch it long having some sort of an interest. And it's really everywhere. Miss K says John Burroughs is the man. Hopefully I'll see Mr. B coming up pretty soon when Walker Valley takes on McMinn County. Tailgate Thursday tomorrow. It's a pretty lengthy one. I recorded a 7.5 minute preview of everything. I mean, this is a pretty interesting week. Bryce said John B is not the man. He is a legend. Okay. It's like, where are you going with that? Oh, yeah. Natalie's also a former bandy back in the day when I was a teenager. Drop a little Bentley on you. John says, K. Frank is the legend. Why's McMahon playing tomorrow night? Homecoming, I think fall breaks next week. They kind of do this weird. Before fall break, they always kind of play on a random Thursday night. So that's kind of the thing. I know. I mean, I don't remember if we had a fall break when I was in high school. I feel like we did my senior year, but yeah, the fall break's kind of a new thing here as far as school systems go. I know we got people out of work next week taking their kids to different places and stuff. So yeah, you kids are lucky. We didn't get it. We got Columbus Day or whatever off. Nicholas says it'll either be Tennessee 33, LSU 30, or Tennessee 38, LSU 21. All right. At least you got both of them as a Tennessee win. John says, love Natalie. John also says, lack of officials. They all, okay, so this is lack of officials. They all asked us to play at least one game on Thursday. Okay, gotcha. Okay, so thank you for the clarification, John. I knew, kind of following along from a distance that they kind of have this random Thursday night game. And I know it's always around like fall break. Brad says, kids back then were tough. Didn't need a fall break. I mean, we were just barely in school, and now kids getting off fall break and going to Disney and all that fun stuff. Which, hey, that's cool. I'm just jealous. I'll have to get a fall break and spring break at work, but I only got like 3 weeks of vacation. So, Nicholas says, one thing you can hold on me, if we beat LSU, we will beat Alabama at home. That's a bold statement from Nicholas, and you're not the first person I've heard say that. I mean, anything can happen. I mean, they got 5 big road games. And they've already played 2. Still got to play. I think either Ole Miss or Mississippi State on the road. That's going to be tough. Obviously, us, and then they go to LSU. John says fall break is crucial for our educators and administrators too. Yeah, yeah. I'm just jealous y'all get fall break. we had a spring break. We didn't go to Cancun or any of that stuff. Of course, Mr. B used to bring us in last week in July to start drum camp, so we had to be tough. Cut out a couple of weeks of summer vacation. Brad says, tell people where to listen to the pod. Yes, listen to good old Rocky Talk. That's Talk. We love Rocky Top, but it's called Rocky Talk. So make sure you spell it, careful spelling it out. It is on Apple Podcasts. It is on Spotify Podcasts. It's on Amazon Podcasts. We drop episodes on our YouTube page from time to time. It drops every Tuesday or in the afternoon time. So as soon as it pops up, like I said, make sure you're subscribed to it. So you'll get a notification when we do drop an episode. Where, like I said, it's Brad is the host of the podcast. I'm one of the analysts. David Dees, another friend of ours, is an analyst. We just had Ryan Hughes this past Tuesday talk about his involvement with the Boys and Girls Club. Definitely check it out. But yeah, it's good old, and that's OL, Rocky Talk. So Amazon, Spotify, Amazon platforms is crawling across the screen right now. Brad said, Miss K says, will y'all vote for me for homecoming Miss Senior Citizen Queen? Yes, we will definitely do that. Can I ask you out to the homecoming dance, Miss K? You'll be better than Jamie Tilley. Whoa, I didn't mean to say that. Oh, we're getting silly on here. Oh yeah, we have eclipsed 1 hour, and we're going off the rails here. I'll be honored. Thank you, Miss K. So Miss K and I are going to the homecoming dance. That is awesome. I love it. Oh man, it's just turned 9 o'clock, and we're getting silly. Anyways, any other questions or comments? Bradley checking in. Welcome in. Bradley says, "Go Big Orange always. What does Hooker have to do to win the Heisman Trophy? Go Vols only." He's going to have to pick up a big signature win either over Alabama or Georgia. I think he can get his numbers up there to Heisman-like levels. May get an invite to New York. Just depends on how the rest of the Heisman run is. And, of course, it's a very quarterback-friendly award. But he's going to have that signature win either next week against Alabama or when we go down to Georgia. He's going to have to get one of them. Hopefully by then we can go to Atlanta. All we got to do is just beat Georgia. Brad says, which swimsuit you be showcasing during the swimsuit competition? Oh, my goodness. Oh, goodness. Yeah. Woo, we've gone off the rails. Shout out to Bradley giving us a like on our Facebook page. Miss K says, we don't have to participate in a swimsuit. Thank God. Oh, man. I'm so glad everybody's still keeping it. I'm surprised our viewership hasn't dropped that bad. Oh, fall break. Homecoming. God is great. From Brad. Got a late October at the homecoming dance. We slipped outside and we took a chance in the middle of the night. Oh, goodness. Any others? If Miss K says if we did, I would win. Yes, feel confident. I'm all about body positivity. Nothing wrong with it. Nicholas says, what's your take on us beating Bama? Thank goodness we got a serious question. Thank you, Nicholas. Trying to get into that discussion. All right. Sorry, Nicholas. Take us beating Bama. Depends on the defense. It's kind of the same thing with LSU. I know Young got injured in that Arkansas game. I expect him to be okay. I think Brad says I think we can play 4 quarters with Bama. I do too. I think we can hang in there. I think we can score on them. It's just going to come down to how does our defense does. Are they willing to win it? I think I even if you ask Nick Saban this, honestly, he would probably say the same thing. It's probably the toughest game that they're going to face up to this point. Like I said, they basically bought a win out of Texas. I still think that's a terrible call, that roughing the passer penalty. But and they Arkansas got them on the ropes a little bit, but then kind of got blown out twice in that same game. But I think we can hang in there with them. It's just our defense. And like I said, Alabama's a very talented team. Nick Saban knows how to coach these big games. Brad says, I think Bama and Georgia have flaws, and we can play with them. Yeah. I mean, we saw, Georgia kind of sleepwalk the last couple of weeks. We didn't see the Kent State game because we're at the Tennessee-Florida game. Matter of fact, I haven't even seen the highlights since then, but I know Kent State, who runs a up-tempo offense similar to us, put 22 on their defense, and then they turn around the next week and played Missouri, who's nowhere near tempo level as us and nowhere near talent level as us, and they hung in there for 4 quarters with Georgia. So, like I said, I think we got a more talented team than Missouri, and I think it can be very interesting. We'll see how they do against Auburn. They'll probably blow them out by 30 points, knowing them. Bradley says, how many wins will it take to win the SEC East and go to Atlanta? I think you're going to have to run the table in the SEC East. You're going to have to defeat Georgia. So let's see. That's trying to think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 wins there. If you get a win at LSU, I think that's big. It's going to have to take beating Georgia. If you beat Georgia, beat LSU, even if you drop to Alabama, that'll get you enough to get to Atlanta. Georgia's the big hurdle to getting us to Atlanta. And Josh Heupel told Hendon Hooker last year when Hendon Hooker says, hey, I'm coming back, coach. He says, I'll see you in Atlanta. So let's do it. Oh, no, we're going off the rails again. Brad says if we beat Bama, I would literally go streaking. And he said Georgia wins and we're there. And Miss K says, oh, Lord, no, you can't. Just make sure you don't go over to Charlotte there, Miss K. I know you love your grandbaby. But think of the children. Oh, my goodness. I don't know how we still got double-digit wins with all these comments tonight. We're going to get kicked off of here. All right. I even thought that I'm glad that podcast after we went off was even crazier too Monday night. Anyways, I think we're going to go ahead and kind of wind this down. Thank you for everybody tuning in. Brad says, can you imagine being 6-0? That would be unbelievable. Unbelievable. You're going to have to say Josh Heupel's coach of the year, not only in SEC, but in college football by that point. All right, we'll wind it down. Thank you for everybody tuning in. The Vol Society Live. Great show tonight. We went over an hour. Thank you for your comments and your questions. Enjoy the game on Saturday. Tailgate Thursday coming up tomorrow. We got a 7.5-minute preview of college football. We announced our high school game of the week on that video. And then we'll post the final score of that game sometime late Friday night. LSU game on Saturday at noon. One of us will be in the Facebook page just kind of talking along about it. Listen to the podcast. Brad says we had a great conversation with Ryan Hughes, the executive director of the Boys and Girls Club in the state of Tennessee. Definitely check it out, especially if you're a Vol fan and want to help out some great young people to have a great experience with Tennessee football. Please check it out. Ryan gives details on that. Definitely definitely worth checking out. We will also announce our guests for the Good Old Rocky Talk coming up pretty soon. Keeping it sealed, but it's going to be big. Can't wait to reveal that to the Vol Society. We'll have Josh Heupel's press conference for the Alabama game Monday. Hopefully I don't forget. I was a little late on that, but that's all right. We still had it on there. And then we'll be back here next Wednesday night. Huge Vol Society Live next week. VFL, yeah. Our guest next week on the podcast is a VFL. That's right, a former Tennessee football player. It's going to be exciting to find out who it is. And I know you'll be excited. But until then, this has been Vol Society Live. We'll talk to y'all next Wednesday night right here at 8 o'clock as we have the I Hate Alabama week. We'll talk to y'all later. Have a great night and go Vols. Beat LSU.